Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to do a quick sound check. So let me know if you can hear me. You can use the chat box. You should see if you're on a computer, it should be on the bottom, somewhere on the right. If you're on your phone, you're going to have to check some of the tabs. Hello, everyone. Yes, you can all hear me. Super. Great. All right. So welcome to Separation Anxiety Myths. I'm super excited to be offering this webinar to all of you. So if you don't know who I am, I'm going to do a little introduction about who I am. Then I'm going to get right into it. So to start, where are you all joining us from? So use the chat box, just write where you're from. Wow. So I think that's North Carolina, Terrebonne, Montreal, Los Angeles, Montreal, India, Napa, Montreal, Concord. Wow, you guys are all over the place. That's amazing. Well, I'm so happy you're all here. Thank you for joining me. So yeah, let's get started. So my name is Catherine, and I am a professional dog trainer. I'm a graduate from the Academy for Dog Trainers. I'm also certified in separation anxiety training, and I'm also fear-free certified. I have been working with animals since 2015, and my experience includes working with private clients in consults and in group classes, but I have also worked for the Montreal SPCA and Humane Society International. So I have a lot of experience in shelters as well. I am a mom to a little baby named Lily. I have 3 dogs. Their names are Harlow, Maggie, and Xena. And I have a little kitty cat named Kiki. So these are my babies. So I am offering all of you this free webinar because there is so much misinformation out there on separation anxiety. I am really spend a lot of time on social media. I like to flip through reels and go through Facebook and Instagram, and I spend a lot of time on there. And the stuff that I see is awful. It's very damaging to your dog and to your relationship with your dog. And so I hope that with this webinar that I can get more good information out there on separation anxiety, especially this last year and a half, 2 years of being in COVID. It's a big problem for a lot of you who have dogs, and being in confinement, most of them were left alone during the last year and a half. And so there is some questions on how to get your dog started on alone time training. Some of your dogs that you've noticed, when you return to work, were having a bit of issues. And so I know it's a big topic, and this is why I want to offer this free webinar to all of you to just hopefully get more good information out there on separation anxiety. So tonight's topics include separation anxiety versus isolation distress. So we're going to look at what those specific behavior issues are. We're going to look at what causes separation anxiety, some common signs. We're also going to talk about FOMO. We're going to do some myth busting. I'm going to give you some training tips to get you started on alone time training, a couple extra resources, and of course, there is a Q&A at the end. Should you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to use the chat box and write all your questions. If it's pertaining to the slide, I will probably answer it, but I'll probably keep most of the other questions for the end. So don't worry if I don't answer your question right away. You can write in the chat box and I'll try to get to it at the end. All right, so let's get started. What do you think separation anxiety is? So a lot of people, I do a lot of consults. This is 90% of what my work is separation anxiety as a certified separation anxiety trainer. And then I just have to kind of help guide people through this. So in the chat box, a line or two, what do you think separation anxiety is? So I'll give you a moment, let you all answer. A panic attack. Yes, ma'am. Give you a little bit more time so you can answer. Don't be shy, it's okay. I encourage you all to participate. I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions where you're gonna have to answer me. Extraordinary fear of being alone. Yes. Yep, it's panic and it's fear of being left alone, that's for sure. Great. So, is it separation anxiety or is it isolation distress? Separation anxiety is actually a panic disorder which dogs exhibit distress when away from the preferred caregiver. So it could be any one specific person in their family. So for example, if we have a family of 2 parents and 2 children, it can be either of those individuals. It could be one of the children. It could actually be one of the adults. The dog chooses their preferred caregiver, and when they're without them, they display signs of distress. Now, when we look at isolation distress, and this is the most common, this is when a dog exhibits distress when they're alone, and typically they're okay when they're left with any other human. So for most dogs, this is what they're experiencing is isolation distress. I do get cases of separation anxiety where the dog is very attached to one person, and when this one person leaves, they show signs of distress, even if they're with another person. So that is what true separation anxiety is. However, separation anxiety is a term that we use loosely to describe both behavior issues. So even if your dog experiences isolation distress, we still label it as separation anxiety. Now, I'm going to just talk about confinement anxiety really quickly. Confinement anxiety is when a dog is in distress when they're confined to a room or a crate, but they're often fine when they're loose in the house. So sometimes when I'm consulting with a new client, I'm going to ask them, okay, well, where does your dog stay when you're not home? Are they in a crate? Are they free in a room? Or are they free in the whole house? And so if they're in a crate, I'll ask them, well, did you try them free in the house? And they'll say, no, I've never tried it. And sometimes I'll often encourage to just test it out to see what they would be like free in the house. And then other people have tried free in the house and it was the same reaction. So we're probably going into thinking it's separation anxiety or isolation distress. But I have consulted with clients where it was just confinement anxiety. Once we got the crate out of the way, the dog was fine. And so in these cases, there's not much more to do. You can do crate training if you really want to, but you don't have to. Okay. Now, we're not sure exactly what causes separation anxiety. So a lot of it is just what we feel, what we think, and what we've observed with our clients. But there does seem to be a link to certain things. So for example, if a puppy leaves their litter too early, before 7-8 weeks of age, ideally your puppy should be coming home after 8 weeks. It's best leaving a little bit later. If it's a good breeder that socializes and does training and all this stuff, it's best to wait after 10 to 12 weeks, but they are ready to come home at 8 weeks old. So anything before is a little bit too early. Breeding anxious and stressed dogs is something that seems to be linked to separation anxiety. So something that's in the genetics. Okay, so there's probably a genetic disposition for dogs if they were bred from an anxious mother or a stressed mother, or even dogs who have a history of an anxiety disorder. And it doesn't necessarily need to be separation anxiety, but any sort of anxiety disorder, even like noise phobia. So when we have a dog who's very stressed, the likelihood of their puppies being stressed as well is very high. Okay. So it can also come from trauma. So let's say, your dog got attacked at the dog park. Well, let's say, causes some anxiety in them. And then from there, it just causes anxiety in their day-to-day life. And so increased anxiety will sometimes manifest itself into separation anxiety. I've also seen it in pain or illness. So, for example, dogs with arthritis who are always in pain, it can increase their anxiety. They don't understand what's going on. And so it does manifest itself into separation anxiety. And then canine cognitive dysfunction. So this is kind of similar to Alzheimer's in humans. Dogs become, when they're older, they can become confused and it can trigger separation anxiety. Okay. Now, did you notice I didn't mention anything about owners? I'm going to talk about this in the myth busting part, but it's just to be a little bit more, you know, did you notice it? Like I said, I'm going to talk about it in the myth busting part in more detail. So, these are common signs of separation anxiety. So the big ones are vocalizations, of course, whining, howling, and barking, house training issues in a normally house trained dog, destruction or escaping confinement, and it could be to any certain degree for the destruction. Anorexia basically means when a dog does not eat in the absence of their owner. So, you give them a Kong, they don't touch it, or you kind of like hide treats everywhere, or they have their bowl of food and they don't touch anything. And then as soon as you come home, they run to their Kong, they run to their treats or their food, and they'll eat. So, this is very common. However, I have seen dogs eat their Kong while vocalizing, while they're whining, and you see other signs of stress and they're clearly not okay, but they're glutton enough to eat anyway. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your dog doesn't eat that they have separation anxiety. I've had seen dogs who do eat and they still experience separation anxiety. So those are the ones that we normally notice the most, especially the first three are the ones that bother us the most. So if we have a dog who vocalizes all day and we live in a condo or an apartment, we're probably getting complaints. When we leave the house and we hear the dog howling and barking, and we hear them howling, barking when we come back home. So we know there's something up. House training too, we come home to a pee or a little nervous poo, if they destroyed something in their crate or in the house. So these are the ones that we notice because it bothers us. Whereas the other ones, it kind of goes unnoticed. Well, maybe not self-mutilation, but the other ones kind of go unnoticed, but they're still big signs that when I evaluate a new dog, this is the kind of signs I'm also looking for. So pacing and turning in circles. So pacing, they're basically looking for you. They're going from the window to the door to the patio to this room to that room. So they're going all over the place looking for you. If they're in their crate, they're turning in circles. There's some dogs who do stay in one spot. So in front of the door or in front of a window. If they're in their crate, they just kind of stay and hide in the corner. So there's the two extremes. Self-mutilation, so let's say they're trying to escape their confinement space, they will go to the extreme of hurting themselves to get out. So they will suffocate themselves, they will rip out their nails, rip out their teeth, break their teeth on the cage just to get out. I've seen dogs even lick their paws till they're raw in stress. So some dogs do go to this extreme as well. And then there's other signs like trembling, panting, drooling, and then being hypervigilant. So these are all pretty big signs that there's something not okay with your dog when they're left alone. Obviously, there's more signs of stress, but these are the big ones to look out for and the easiest to see. Okay. Now, intensity does not equal severity. So what I mean by that is your dog doesn't need to have XYZ to say that they have separation anxiety. We look at the overall body language and we see that your dog is clearly in distress. So for example, dog A vocalizes nonstop. They howl, they bark, and they whine throughout the absence, whether it's half an hour, or 4 hours, they're constantly vocalizing. Dog A also stays in front of the door and they're panting the whole time because obviously they're barking. So when you compare it to dog B, who's lightly whining, if you're just looking at vocalizations where a dog who's howling and barking nonstop compared to a dog who's lightly whining, you might think dog A is more severe, a more severe case, right? But we're looking at other signs of stress. Dog B is pacing, going from the window to the door. He's looking for his owner. He's trembling and he's panting to the point of hyperventilation because he's just running all over the place looking for you. Now, when we look at it like that, is dog A still more severe than dog B? I wouldn't say so. And so, because we can't ask the dog, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, where's your anxiety level? Because we can't actually communicate and talk that way, we really can't say if a dog is severe in their anxiety or less severe. And we have to go with what we see visually. So there are signs of stress, and we can just obviously tell that this dog is in distress. Okay. Now, here's a little bit of a human analogy. My sister and I are both terrified of spiders. However, our fear response is a little bit different. So my sister will yell, probably throw something at it, and will try and run away. So she's very dramatic in her fear response. Whereas I will probably freeze because I'm too scared to move and I'm just not taking my eyes off that spider because I don't want it to hide somewhere. And if you look at both of us side by side, you see her yelling and freaking out and throwing things and trying to run out of the room. And then you just see me in the corner like this. You might think just from looking at us that she is more severe. However, I'm also so scared, I can't move. Now, we're not talking about a little spider. We're talking about like a tarantula or something, okay? So when we look at it like that, is she more afraid than I am? Well, we can ask, from 1 to 10, how fearful are you? And we can say like, oh, I'm a 10, but I'm a 10 too. And so it really, it's hard to determine severity with fear. But we can tell definitely that there is distress, there's anxiety, and that is for certain. Okay. So a lot of times when I talk with clients, they want to ask, like, does he seem really severe? Do you think it's going to take long? I don't know. Just on looking on the dog, we can tell that they're in distress and they're definitely not okay. All right. So, FOMO. I felt it was important to include this because it is something that clients often bring up. Not FOMO in particular, but what FOMO is, and then I explain it to them. So FOMO is an anxiety from something that's exciting or interesting that could be occurring elsewhere. Okay, so for example, your dog follows you everywhere. He's laying on his pillow, you're in your office working, and then all of a sudden you're gonna go to the bathroom or you're gonna go to the kitchen to get a glass of water, and your dog has to come with you. It could also be when your dog reacts when they're in another room separated from you. So let's say behind a gate or a closed door. It could also be when your dog reacts when they see you outside and they're not with you. So this is FOMO. This is a fear of missing out. Once the person is gone, so once you're gone, your dog seems to settle down. So this is to say that most dogs do this. My dogs do this. As soon as I'm outside and they see me, I hear them barking and freaking out because they're like, Mom's home, and they're so excited to see me. Or if I just go into the backyard to go get something, I hear them barking because they want to come with me. It's a fear of missing out. But as soon as I'm back, they're fine. If I go out of view, let's say if I leave in my car, they're fine. And so it's not a sign of separation anxiety. Most dogs follow their owners. And so a lot of people feel like, well, I need to teach my dog independence and make them, not be so clingy. Not necessarily. Most dogs are clingy to their pet parents and they love them. Yep, Rosie has FOMO. Oh, yes, all the dogs do. They always want to be with us, right? So FOMO is not a sign of separation anxiety. All right. So that's with our first myth busting. Cuddling or sleeping with your puppy will cause separation anxiety. True or false? So please use the chat box. Don't be shy. You can say true or false. If you follow me on social media, you'll know that I have been very vocal about this for the last 2 weeks. If And it's because I saw another trainer say that you should not sleep with your dog because it will cause separation anxiety, and it just drives me absolutely bananas. But yes, you are all right. It is false. Okay, it's false. So I say it's false with full confidence, and this is because most dogs are well loved by their families. Often they're allowed on the beds, on the couch, and they're snuggled with. To some, you may say they're spoiled. And guess what? The majority of them are okay. They don't have separation anxiety. So when we think about these things logically, we see, well, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that cuddling or sleeping with your dog or with your puppy would cause separation anxiety, especially if this is not your first dog and you've always done this with your dogs before. So when we think about it logically, we see, doesn't make sense. And for the most part, we got a dog because we want to spend time with them, right? I had a client that I worked with who waited her whole life to get a dog, and she was ready for the right moment when she was retired and had the time for the dog. And I think it was her veterinarian who said, "You can't sleep with your dog. They have to sleep in another room in a crate." And she was heartbroken because she waited for this dog her whole life, and this is what she wanted. She wanted to sleep in the same room as her dog, and she couldn't. So when we talked together, it was very relieving for her that she can. So, all right. True or false? It's best to use a crate when a dog has separation anxiety. So use the chat box. Let me know. I got a false. Anyone else? False. Don't be shy. I encourage you to participate. So I'll give you guys a few more seconds to, I don't know. It's okay. That's why you're here. Question marks. All right. So the question, if your dog has separation anxiety, it is not best to use the crate. Okay. So a crate is not recommended for dogs with separation anxiety because the symptoms of separation anxiety will often increase in intensity when the dog is placed in a crate, which is also known as confinement anxiety, similar to claustrophobia in humans. So if your dog has destroyed the crate or escaped, the solution is not to buy a heavy duty crate, but to treat the underlying anxiety. So whenever I consult with a new client, I ask them if they met with a veterinarian or with another trainer, or if they did some research online and what they found and what they tried. And oftentimes they were told to use a crate because it does minimize destruction. It minimizes messes from house training lapses. And if your dog is vocalizing, well, it's easier to keep them, let's say, in the basement or in another room while they're in a crate. But they're still anxious, they're still panicking, and you're not fixing the underlying fear. So if your dog continues to experience this emotion, they're not going to get better, they're probably going to get worse. So a crate doesn't fix it. If anything, can make it worse. Okay. Like I said, this is for separation anxiety. So if you have a puppy, most of my clients are puppy clients as well. If you have a puppy and they're just some confinement anxiety, you can definitely do crate training and go gradually to get them comfortable with their crate. However, if it's separation anxiety, I usually opt out from the crate. Okay. Yes. So, of course, using the crate also increases the probability of getting hurt as well. It's like I mentioned before, some dogs will even hurt themselves. They will suffocate themselves. They will break their teeth or break their nails trying to escape. So, definitely, it increases the probability of getting hurt as well. Yeah. Okay. So, if you are a new puppy parent, I have a puppy life skills course. And I'm offering you 20% off the course for the next 24 hours. So if it's something that you've been looking into and you're interested in doing the online course, this is your chance because you get 20% off. And I do have a whole module on alone time training and getting your puppy comfortable with being left alone. So if you're interested in that, you have 20% off. I'll send you all an email with the promo code and the link. And then you could check that out afterwards. All right. All right. I've heard amazing comments about your course. Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, we have a lot of great students, and we have an online Facebook group, and people too, when they have some issues with alone time training, they'll write questions in there, which is really fun. So it's a really great group. So next myth, getting another dog will cure it. True or false? Come on, friends. Do you think getting a second dog will help? False, 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 false. There's no tricking you guys. It's just you guys are awesome. False. Yep, it's false. So this is because, you'd think getting a buddy would make them less lonely, but it's rare that getting a second dog helps. People even thought about getting a cat and it doesn't help. And this is because another dog does not replace the human. So if you're thinking about getting another dog, make it be for the reason that you're ready for the commitment of a second dog and not to keep your current dog company. Okay, so it's a big commitment. It's something that you shouldn't take lightly. So definitely only do it if you're really ready for it. All right. Calming treats, sprays, and t-shirts rarely work. True or false? Oh. All right, don't be shy. True or false? True, false. 50-50 right now. We need a tiebreaker. True, false. 50-50 again, guys. True. So I'm saying they don't work. Okay, so this is what the question is if it's not clear to anyone, that they don't work. True or false? Okay. Okay. So the answer is kind of like 50-50. Oh, what is it? It's true. It's true. Calming treats, sprays, and t-shirts rarely work. Not what you expected. So that's because there's not a lot of evidence showing that these products are effective. With my own clients, whenever we are working on separation anxiety, we keep a log and we include when they use different natural products. So whenever they use the treats, whenever they use the sprays, if they use a t-shirt, most of my clients don't use them, but when they do, it is written in our training log. And so these products are used under their discretion or advised by their veterinarian, and we rarely see a difference. So I normally don't recommend them. It's in my column of, can't hurt, might help. But for most of my clients who are coming to me, they have limited resources. So, obviously money is a big issue. You're going to be spending money on treats and sprays and shirts and drops and all kinds of stuff, and not, seeing a difference. But they're also limited on their time and their energy. It's time and energy looking into this stuff, going out to buy it, giving it to their dog, putting it on their dog. So they're putting a lot of effort into these products and seeing very little difference. So this is why I don't recommend them. So of course, if it's something that you want to try, definitely give it a go. Talk to your veterinarian about it. I always suggest talking to your vet to make sure that these products are safe for your dog, but it's under your discretion. And if you see a difference in them, that's great. Yes. Most of these products are often very expensive as well. So that's why I don't recommend them, but you can try them. I've had some people tell me that, they've tried different oils and stuff like that and they saw a difference, but it's hard to really pinpoint who would benefit from it or not. And in my experience, it rarely works. So I don't recommend them. All right, next one, and I think this is my last one. You should ignore your dog when you get home to prevent separation anxiety. True or false? Ignoring your dog to prevent separation anxiety. That's what essay is. So Great. I love that you guys are answering. I'm not talking by myself. Super duper, you guys. Yeah, so it's false. False. It might seem a little bit bizarre to some of you, even though if you didn't answer. Um, and this is because, obviously we want to encourage polite greetings, but this is at your own discretion. So my dogs, when I come home, I'm like, hello, puppies. They don't have separation anxiety or anything like that, but I say, hello, puppies. And before I say bye, I'm like, okay, be good. And I close the door. So when I get home, my dogs jump on me. And that's because I don't mind. And I like it when they come up and they give me kisses and I hug them and it's wonderful. So polite greetings is to your own discretion. But with dogs who do experience separation anxiety, pet parents are guided to avoid big reactions like I just mentioned that I do with my dogs. Is to keep entrances and exits low key, so just to keep them boring. But I don't recommend ignoring your dog, as this can increase anxiety. So I don't suggest ignoring them at all. Even if your dog has separation anxiety, I don't tell my clients to ignore their dog when they're doing exits or entrances. So it's just to keep it low key, super boring, nothing interesting was happening. But our dogs are usually very excited to see us. And you can definitely say hello to them and it's totally fine. And I mean, like I mentioned before, we got dogs to spend time with them and to, do all this stuff with them. We, we don't get dogs to put them in a corner and ignore them all day, right? We got a dog to have a companion, to spend time with them, to love them. And so that's really the big message that I have for you is that, we got dogs to spend time with them and to love them, not to ignore them and put them in a corner. So I don't recommend ignoring your dog, and you can definitely say hello, um, no problem. Colleen wrote, if my boyfriend comes back home without saying hi, it will increase my anxiety or frustration. Heck yes. So I do get frustrated too when my husband comes home and he doesn't say hello to me or give me a kiss goodbye. And I'm like, excuse me. Don't ignore me. So that's a great analogy. I love that. So I have a couple tips for you to get you started on alone time training. What's the difference between ignoring and a low key entrance? So ignoring is basically like avoiding eye contact, not talking to them. Like you're really not pointing your body towards them and you're just basically ignoring them. You're just pretending they don't exist. Whereas a low key entrance, it's like you can still acknowledge them. Hello, puppy. And then continue your way. If they are asking for cuddles, I do tell my clients you could still pet your dog. You say like, hello, puppy, and then continue doing your stuff. I gotta just put my bags away, do their thing, but not to ignore their dog where they don't exist and not looking at them. Hope that answers your question. All right, so 4 tips to get you started on alone time training. So whether you have an adult dog or a puppy, COVID has been tough on all of us. And so whether you've, just got a puppy or you've been working at home and your dog is not used to being left alone anymore because the last year and a half we haven't left the house, we might need to do some alone time training with them to get them used to being left alone. It's a huge change going from always with you to suddenly 8 hours, 5 days a week. It's a huge change. It's a lot of stress and anxiety. And so these are some tips to help you get you started. Okay. So the first tip that I will give you is film your dog. You will need to film your dog because you don't know what's going on unless you film them, right? Because you're not there to observe their behavior. So it's possible that your dog might actually be totally fine left alone and their distraction is them having a party in the garbage. Okay. And you can see in body language when you're watching a video of a dog who is destroying stuff because they're anxious. You see signs of stress, like we looked at on one of the first slides, compared to a dog who's having a party. You see a very big difference in their body language. They're loose, they're happy, they're running around. It's a complete 180 from panic. So the only way to really figure it out is to film them, and this is the best way to assess their behavior. So there's external cameras like Wise. I hope I'm saying that properly. Or you can just use an app like Zoom or FaceTime, and it works really well. So you can set it up on your computer like we are doing right now, and then have it on your phone so you can watch them. You can also film it using any sort of camera that you have. It could be an old phone, it could be an iPad. So you don't necessarily need to get an external camera, but film them. Film them. That's the first step in any sort of alone time training, even separation anxiety training, is to film them. Okay. The second is to learn the signs. Learn the signs of stress and take note of your dog's behavior when they're left alone. So now it's assessing whether or not what's going on, right? So you film them. Now you need to know, okay, what am I looking at? So it's not always easy. It's training our eye to see signs of stress. But once we become familiar with signs of stress and we look for it, we can definitely see when your dog is not okay being left alone. So learning the signs of stress. We did look at it at the beginning of our of the webinar, and there's different resources on learning body language. I know there's an online course. I think Bravo Dog does it. There's a great book by Lily Chen that I love that's about body language. So you can definitely look at some resources to help you learn body language. And this way, when you look at your dog when they're alone, yes, okay, it is Bravo Dog. Bravo Dog has an online course, so I can always send it to you. And it's free. It's free, right? I think it's free. Anyways, free course, I think. I'll send it to you. Yes, it's free. Okay, thank you, Maya. You're the best. Okay. So the next tip is to build up gradually. So even if your dog seems to be okay, but for the last year and a half, they haven't been left alone, I still encourage you to go slowly. So slow and steady definitely wins the race in alone time training. If your dog is handling short absences and showing no signs of stress, you can definitely try a longer absence next time. But it's always keeping them happy and comfortable and building up gradually. So, we often see like this protocol of like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you know, start with 5, move to 10, then move to 15. But you have to make sure your dog is comfortable with 5. If you're filming him for 5 minutes and you see that there's lots of signs of stress, you're not ready to go 10 minutes. And even what you're doing at 5 minutes is just causing your dog stress. So you're not actually doing any sort of training. You're just stressing out your dog. So I encourage you to go gradually, go slowly, look for those signs of stress. And if your dog seems fine, then you can try a little bit longer next time. And my fourth and last tip is ask for help. If you're having a hard time getting your dog or your puppy comfortable being left alone, seek help from a certified separation anxiety trainer. There are trainers who do take separation anxiety cases, and honestly, it's best to go with someone who's certified in it, who worked with some of the best in our industry and got certified and work mostly this cases. You'll see it'll be a lot less frustrating for you, because I have clients who've been with me and they told me they've seen like 3 or 4 other trainers who tried to fix their dog separation anxiety till they got to us. So I really encourage a certified separation anxiety trainer. And there are 2 programs that certify trainers. So one of them is SA Pro Trainer, so Separation Anxiety Pro Trainer. And the other one is the one that I did, is Certified Separation Anxiety Trainer with Milena DeMartini. So please ask for help if you need it. Don't wait too long. You want to start your dog off on the right paw. You want to start your puppy off great too. Start some good habits early. So definitely ask for help if you need it. So here are a couple of resources. I should add the Lily Chin book to this. I'll do it next time. So resources, it's the Certified Separation Anxiety Trainer. So it's a CSAT, CSAT, SA Pro Trainer. And so there's a couple other resources that you can look into if you need help with alone time training or separation anxiety training. So there's a great online course called Mission Possible. It is by Milena DeMartini, and it's for pet parents. Okay. It's a course that will take you through the steps on treating your dog separation anxiety yourself. It's a really great base if you enjoy training. It's very fluent for you. It's also really it's priced at a good, it's a great price point. So if there's some budget issues, it's definitely a good course to take to help you get started on separation anxiety training with your dog. There are also two books that I highly suggest. So Be Right Back by Julie Naismith and Separation Anxiety in Dogs by Melena DeMartini. Yeah, and so Julie is also doing a puppy book for separation anxiety as well. I think yeah, it should be coming out soon. So there are a couple books, there's a course, and then there are two groups of certified trainers that can help you with your dog separation anxiety. So, like I mentioned earlier, I have a puppy life skills course. So, if you're a puppy parent and you want to start your dog on all the basics, you want to start some good habits early. I also have a module on alone time training. I have a module on puppy health that was created by a vet tech, a registered veterinary technician. And I have a private Facebook group for my puppy students. There's tons of guides, there's tutorial videos, so it's a really great course. And you can get 20% off using the promo code puppy. All right, so I'll send you this all in an email and you can check it out if you're interested. So, time to ask questions. So I'm gonna go look at see if I missed any of your questions, but if you have questions, now's the time to ask them. I'm just gonna scroll up and see if I missed anything while we were chatting. Okay, answer this one. Okay, so if you're using Zoom on a laptop and a cell phone, do you need two accounts? No, actually, I'm on Zoom on my laptop and on my cell phone. So I have my cell phone on the chat box. So you can put multiple cameras from the same accounts. If you're working with a client, if you're a trainer and you're working with a client and you want to use Zoom, you can have multiple people, multiple cameras, I think up to like 100, which is pretty cool. Okay. So, when's a good time to start leaving puppy alone? If we wait too long, will they be more likely to develop separation anxiety? So, this is a great question. So, alone time training is done gradually. So, you're not going to leave your puppy for 4 hours or 8 hours right from the get go. We're going to do it slowly and at their pace. This is where I suggest filming them and just seeing what your starting point is and going from there. But you can definitely start your puppy on alone time training as soon as they come home. Ideally, your breeder has already started some alone time training. So, whether it's crate training or getting them used to being alone away from their litter, progressively and at their own pace, you're ready to start alone time training as soon as they come home. But again, like I mentioned, you want to go slowly and gradually and go at the puppy's pace. If you wait too long, I don't think it will cause separation anxiety, but they might have some difficulty adjusting to the new schedule. So if you go from one day of always being home to the next being gone for 8 hours, it is a huge change and will definitely cause some anxiety. And so I do encourage you to start as soon as puppy comes home and then just do it gradually. Okay. Um, how can I get my mid-sized Labradoodle, 1.5 years old, to stop barking whenever he sees someone walking outside and he sits by the window? So this is a big, this is something that I have seen people come to me. They think their dog has separation anxiety and then their dog just stares at people all day and barks at them. So again, it's not necessarily a sign of separation anxiety. But if your dog barks at people in the window, there's a couple of things that you can do. What I highly recommend is putting some sort of vinyl on the window. So the vinyl prevents your dog from looking outside, but doesn't prevent the light from coming in. So it's a great way just to manage your dog to prevent them from barking. I have done this with my own dogs because I have a 1-year-old baby, my little munchkin, and I have 3 dogs. So you can imagine the barking that goes on here when mailman passes. I even moved my mailbox to prevent this, but I did a lot of management, and this is what I encourage people. And it's just a great way to just cut down the barking with minimal effort. So putting up a vinyl, you can buy them on Amazon. I've seen some at, depending where you are. Here in Montreal, we have like Rona and Home Depot and stuff like that. And the ones that were sold there, that's the one that we initially bought, and it's garbage. Doesn't stick to the window. I had to put tape on it. It looked awful. But I bought the one on Amazon. I just got it, so I'm gonna install it. So yeah. A water-based film is not hard to put on. Yeah. So, but there was a water-based film one that I got from Rona, and it just never stuck, and it just kept peeling off. So I had to put tape on it. It looked awful. Have you seen any cases where the puppy has separation anxiety when owners are gone and then has a hard time settling upon their return? Yeah, this is most dogs with separation anxiety. So when dogs have separation anxiety, they're experiencing panic, and they're in distress. So when the people finally come home, their pet parents finally come home, their anxiety is still really high. It doesn't just drop to zero because they came back home. It's just they're so worked up from this anxiety and this panic, that they do need some time to settle. I had a client where we would keep track of how long it took her to settle down after doing some training. So the first couple times were, it took the dog 20 minutes and she was pacing and she was whining and just, really unsettled. And then by the time we got training on board and doing our training exercises, he started noticing that, when he go bring out the garbage, I encourage you not to, or bring the dog with you. But anyway, still got it done anyway. And the dog would take within seconds. She would just settle down. She'd be like, "Oh, okay, you're back," and then just go chew on her bone. Something she wasn't able to do before. So yeah, this is something that I see often, that they are unable to settle upon return. Usually takes them a while. Um, Thank you for coming, for those who are leaving. Thank you. One more question. So some trainers let dogs cry it out when they are left alone on the first try. Does that make it worse? It feels so mean to do. So cry it out is um it's recommended by a lot of people, unfortunately. And yeah, I do believe it's mean as well. So I don't encourage you to let your puppy cry it out when they're in their crate. So let's say if you're doing crate training, your puppy doesn't have separation anxiety, but crate training, and they start crying in their crate. Um, Honestly, just go back and let your puppy out. Because if you're gonna wait for them to stop crying, you might be waiting a while. And I don't want to wait to every time that my puppy cries to wait to let them out. I want to prevent it. So, for example, let's say your puppy is starting to cry after half an hour in their crate. Well, the next time I'm gonna let them out, but the next time I'm gonna do 20 minutes. I'm gonna prevent them from crying. I'm gonna go back earlier, as a way to prevent it, because crying it out, honestly, in my opinion, it just increases anxiety. They're learning that when they're uncomfortable with something and they're crying out for you, that you will not come and get them. You're not there for them. It is, to me, very anxiety provoking. And I think it could kind of ruin your bond with them. Not ruin them like in a way where just like you're messing up your dog or anything, but just like I think it does take a bit of a hit on your relationship with your dog. So I don't encourage cry it out at all. I think I answered all the questions. Yeah, I answered everyone's questions. Okay, I had to step up, take Emma for a quick pee. Okay. Yes, you will have access to the webinar after. I will send you all the link. I will send you the link to the webinar, to the recording afterwards. So if you have to leave, no worries. Thank you for coming. I'm so happy you're here. Yeah, so Henry, I'm going to screenshot your message and I will send you, actually, I don't have your thing. I'll send you a message afterwards. So, all right, everyone, I am so glad that you all came. This was really fantastic. And so if you have any other questions, anything pops up, you can definitely reach me on social media. So here are my tags. I am on Instagram. It's doginspired.ca. I'm also on Facebook. It's Dog Inspired Training. And my website is www.doginspired.ca. So if you are not following me on social media yet, definitely check us out on Instagram and on Facebook. Thank you all for coming. I'm so happy you are all here. It's been great. And like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out on social media. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. Take care.